Welcome back to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. I am thrilled, and maybe that's an understatement, to be able to interview our guest today. Katherine Wolf is joining me. Actually, we're a few miles away, so I was joking with her earlier. It's a shame that I'm not in her living room, but she is such an inspiring figure. It's such a powerful story of resilience, faith, advocacy. Her story doesn't start certainly with a dramatic moment. She was an incredible human before that, but Katherine suffered a near fatal brainstem stroke at 26, which dramatically changed the course of her life. And like so many of our guests, she's turned this pain into purpose and is such an advocate for the disabilities community, and that life and fulfillment can be found despite having medical complexities. She is also the co-founder of Hope Heals, wonderful nonprofit based here in Atlanta, which has extensions including an excellent coffee shop that I frequent, and they're really rallying community and changing, I think, really changing the way we look at this community as opposed to being a detriment, but actually it being a benefit to have to go through these experiences both as individuals and as caregivers. So, Katherine, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. I'm so grateful for Support Now and all of your amazing work, Jordan. So, yeah, I'm
Thank you.
excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, Katherine, I am going to assume that some of our listeners may not be as familiar with your story. And so, if you don't mind, I'd
Yeah,
love you to go back to 26 years old, to when you were modeling and
absolutely.
living in Los
Right.
Angeles, and kind of telling more of where you were and then what happened when this stroke occurred.
Absolutely. As a 26-year-old young wife and new mother with a 6-month-old baby in the next room and with no medical history, no family history, no prior symptoms, no indication anything was wrong. I was perfectly healthy when out of nowhere I had a massive brainstem stroke and very nearly died due to a birth defect in my brain that I never knew that I had, called an AVM, an arterial venous malformation. That is a collection of blood vessels that formed when I was still in utero inside my mother. I developed a collection of blood vessels that malformed and grew and grew and grew until I was 26 and ruptured in my brainstem, causing the stroke. The physicians would go on to operate for 16 hours of micro brain surgery, of which I would survive by the narrowest of threads. And after surviving that, I became a member of the disability community. I am fairly profoundly disabled to this day. I do not drive a car. I do not walk unassisted, although I am ambulatory. I use a wheelchair walker. I have a hand that doesn't work. I have deafness in one ear. I have a paralyzed face and many other significant challenges. I live a fully disabled life and yet an entirely flourishing and fabulous life. I've gone on to have a second baby that was a miracle, supposed to not be possible. I have my husband and I founded a camp for families with disabilities, and we most recently have opened a coffee shop that you've been to, where we employ people with disabilities in an interability workspace. And I get to spend my days advocating for people who have disabilities and, in general, people whose lives have blown up out of nowhere, like mine did. And, yeah, just getting to be a stroke survivor and live on the other side of a life that did not have a lot of very real pain and suffering, prior to the stroke.
Katherine, I'd love to learn a little bit more. You do so much in this space. And again, you alluded to Hope Heals, to the coffee shop, again, your own podcast, and just being a voice. How
Yeah,
long did it take you to embrace or to accept this new normal? Because on the
right,
outside, it looks like, wow,
right.
she never skipped a beat. She just, she woke up, but I
Absolutely.
know that's not
I
what
so I
happened.
totally I appreciate that question so much, Jordan. That indicates that you very much work in this space and get it. That's ludicrous to think anyone pops up the morning after significant tragedy and then does great things with their life, writes books and opens coffee shops and camps and whatnot. No, no. I spent 5 years from 2008 to 2013 when we launched Show Peels, just beginning to come up for air after the stroke. I most definitely did not pop out of bed and decide to have a baby. Waited 7.5 years. Just a lot of processing. My first book was released 8 years after the stroke, and subsequently two more have come out, and launched a podcast a couple years ago. So it's actually a slow burn. And it could seem the opposite, but I'm 17 years post stroke. I was 26 then, I'm 43 now. That was 2008. So I always like to make it abundantly clear that, yeah, too early is just weird. No, that when tragedy strikes, to write a book the next morning is not healthy. That we have to radically accept the story to move forward, and that includes processing. That's not something that happens the day after tragedy. You need some time to be heartbroken by what is lost and what has happened in your life, and time to let your mind be bewildered and your heart to be broken. I like to say that you won't stay there, but you must start there in the ability to radically accept your own life. You have to stare it down, see it for what it is.
I love the phrase radically accept. I haven't heard that. How did you know? How does one know that they have actually radically accepted? Because I do think that people have a tendency, both people that care about you and individuals that might be going through hardship, to want to move to acceptance so quickly. How did
Of
you know that
course.
I actually have radically accepted this as my new life, and now I am ready to pursue these new endeavors?
That's a fascinating question because I don't even know that I have fully radically accepted it to this day. I'm not sure if one ever fully gets to the place of true radical acceptance, but I'm striving for that. And I will say, along my journey, number one, I have shared my story a lot. And in those early days, did my response for some reason was a large community tracking with me. So it meant I was processing with a whole lot of people through Caring Bridge or through early on I mean, 2008 was right when Facebook got big. So I'm processing on Facebook and on a blog, and initially a lot of speaking, writing, just marinating on this is my actual life. And I think it starts with recognition that this is my life. This is not going away. And that is probably the beginning of radical acceptance, is a recognition that this is the story. I like to say that for many of us, we spend a lot of time asking, what if? What if? What if this would have happened? What if this didn't? What if I would have done this differently? What if, what if, what if? And I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think the accurate, important question is, what is? What is in the story? That's really all that matters, is what actually is in my actual life. Not what if this would have happened. It didn't. This did. And what are you going to do with what you got?
I think that's beautiful. I'm curious to also ask you, you
Yeah,
again, as an outsider, it looks like you are in this place of acceptance and you're doing so much with creating a platform and sharing that platform. It's so admirable. And to your point about never fully getting to radical acceptance, because it is just difficult by nature to accept any reality, whether it's positive, negative, or somewhere in between. What are some of the things
absolutely.
today that still make you say, "Gosh, if only." Like, do you still have those moments at all? Like, are there moments where you kinda slip back into that, and what are those trigger points for you?
Oh, yeah. I would say driving is a huge one for me. It is so inconvenient to have to be driven absolutely everywhere. I hate the fact that my husband is my chauffeur and I rely on a network of friends and family to take me to get my eyebrows waxed or pick up my kids from school or whatever the dumb thing is, go to the grocery store. That it's a hassle. It's a hassle. It's a hassle. And it's annoying. But thankfully, I've been able to put things like that in their proper place. That it is not the end of the world. It's
Yeah.
not me. I've been in the hospital a whole lot. I've had a whole lot of surgeries. I've been on the darker, harder side of life, and that's a luxury problem to not be able to drive. So I try to keep it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I miss some things like that, and I I'm not sure "miss" is the right word, but I hate the fact that certain dreams will never be, and that is a hard recognition and an
Mhm.
important one, that there are things I can never do now. There is lives I will not live now, but that is, all a part of accepting, is recognizing I'm not gonna have 5 children. That's not gonna happen. I'm gonna have 2, and there's loss in that. I wanted a big family, and I'm not, and that is sad, and I think I've made peace with the fact that a low-grade sorrow can remain in an incredibly good story that I believe God is writing through my life, that
Love it.
I I can feel sad, that's okay, that life is not how I thought it would be, but
Yeah.
thank goodness I have woken up to the reality that I can dream new dreams for my life, that I am not wedded to the dreams from when I was a little girl, that I can, in fact, dream new dreams as an adult woman based on my life circumstances.
The example of driving is such a powerful one. Like, you can it's so easy to visualize that, you said, you're a 43-year-old female, you've got 2 kids, that's typically a time where you're busy, taking people different places, going to different sporting events, or to your point, just taking care of yourself, and to feel so at that point, you're so kind of reliant on someone else, and you talked about your husband. And I wanna kind of dive a little bit deeper in that, because I think what people often see when they see someone with a disability is they see that person. What they don't see is the village around them. So, can you talk to me about your marriage and how your marriage has transformed, and
Oh,
some of the things that
absolutely.
you all have done to allow your community to come alongside of you so that you can get to this point where you can dream for the future in a different way and not kind of sit in the sorrow of what could have been.
Yeah, oh gosh, yes. Community has meant everything to my story. I think that's why I love your work with Support Now so much, is you're making easily available to have what took, I mean, the number of reply all emails back in 2008 to make a meal calendar, and the amount of just crazy unnecessary now, because there are brilliant platforms like yours to do what people did for me, which is to uplift me and my family. I've heard it said that there are like rings when a person is in tragedy that should, do you know what I'm talking about? Like rings of care.
Yeah.
Is that the right phrase?
Yeah, I
That
think I
big
think I've heard
picture,
this.
there's the community that gets smaller and smaller and closer to the husband or the people intimately involved in one's life, all the way to the person suffering, then we gotta care for everybody in. And I think that's the case. Even my sweet husband and child were wildly supported by their community, and that paid off in spades. And I know that is not every story. Goodness, I'm very aware. I felt a lot of guilt throughout my ordeal that I did have and do have a loving husband. I do have a child. I do have a huge community of friends and family cheering me on. And all of that is not available or accessible to many. And I used to feel a lot of guilt about all of that, and thankfully, that's gone. I don't feel guilt anymore. I feel a charge, actually, a calling that for some reason, that has been what it has been, and I'm gonna use it and
Yeah.
utilize all of that to spur me on in this calling, that's
Yeah.
not to be wasted, relishing in guilt or shame, but instead utilized, and I think that is what we are all called to do as people. It's use
Yeah.
whatever we do have.
I love it, and I think that it's so meaningful, and it shows the fact that you and your husband, Jay, have been able to co-found Hope Heals together and all these other initiatives really speaks to the fact that you had a community to build both of you up because to your point, while you are going through the physical hardship, there is still obviously a physical and mental and emotional and spiritual load on him as well, and so how do you
And
make sure that that
financial
does
and everything,
and
totally.
financial and all the things,
Mm,
and
yeah,
I
mm,
think that again, I think we as a culture have such an opportunity to better understand not just the disabilities community or someone going through a difficult season, but also from the caregiver point of view. And as we move into a phase where boomers are getting older and a different generation is starting to take care of our kids, I think we're starting to see an emphasis on caregiver burnout. What do we do to reduce that mental load and that physical load on them? And I completely agree with you. The answer isn't do it all. The answer is to let the people you love come alongside of you to build you up, to support you in the spiritual ways, but also in the physical ways, because one will burn out. You cannot do it all.
right. You're absolutely right, you can't, and when supporting the caregiver, you are supporting patient A because they're only doing as well as their caregivers, let's be honest.
Right. And I'm sure, maybe I'll have Jay on the podcast next, but I feel like so often people, their tendency is, how's Catherine? And of course, everyone wants to know how you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it's sad. Jay has dealt with that all the way through. On our first book, Hope Heals, literally the picture on the cover is the two of us. And it says written by Jay and Catherine Wolfe on the cover. And it's still, people will say, oh, Jay, Catherine's book changed my life. Catherine's story, Catherine. And he's like, well, my name is also on the cover of the book, and every other chapter is written by me. So interesting that you didn't pick up on any of that. But yeah, caregivers can feel and be entirely invisible, and it is such a tragedy
Yeah.
because 'cause they're the heroes.
Well, yeah, the phrase "not all heroes wear capes." I just think that sometimes we our focus is on what we see as the hard, and sometimes if you take a step back, you have to actually think about like, well, how do they operate? How does this work? Like it works because other people are playing an elevated role and making sure that you can do all these great things. And again, it just speaks to partnership. It speaks to community, all the things that I care so deeply about you all exude in your
Yeah.
day to day. I just think it's so beautiful. And then to that
Oh,
point, I have a question on your children. You're raising
yeah.
these beautiful children. From your point of view, what has it been like for them to navigate this and to see their mom in this capacity, certainly compared to maybe other able-bodied parents, moms
Right.
that
Oh, for
they're spending
sure.
time.
Well, with my own kids, it's totally TBD. They're in process. We have no idea what the future holds. So I definitely don't pretend to have it figured out in the parenting realms by any means. However, I will say that I see really good things coming from my situation because my children are being called on to care for me. And naturally, my 17-year-old just puts out his arm to help me walk to the car. Now, he doesn't even think it's just instinctual. Just gotta help mom get to the car, gotta put her in the car, gotta close the door. So it's cool that their instincts are to be like Mini J, Mini of my husband, and that's great, and I'm here for it. There are also many challenges that I can't do what a normal mommy can do, and there's loss in that, and it's sad, and yet it's also really, really beautiful and probably a tremendous asset to their lives, actually. I, many years ago, woke up to the reality that if I should have died, because I very closely did die almost, that if I should have, I would have died. I would be dead. But I'm not. I'm supposed to be in this story with these people in this story. So, for some reason, they are charged with helping take care of me my whole life. And that is, for some reason, as it should be. I believe that is what God has for us while we are on earth, is to care for each other. Uh, And for my children, that means up close care for me.
Yeah. And what a blessing to their one day, God willing, future, spouses.
Right?
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. You're
I mean
welcome, ladies, you're welcome.
I mean, how could they not, right? How could they not? Like,
Oh,
one of the things I
I
think
think
they
that
tell
all the
you.
time.
Yeah, when you're a girl, one of the things I remember my dad saying is, a good test for how someone's gonna treat you is to how they treat their mom.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree with that.
And so how many examples do you need, to for someone to see that? I mean, they're so well positioned in that way, and I think that speaks to, again, your perspective and the beautiful lens in which you're viewing this life of, "Okay, well, instead of the what if, well, what now can I do? Well, now I can raise my children in a way where I have more confidence in them leading a life where they know how to support."
Yeah, I mean, that's the prayer. Well, like I said, TBD, but we're hoping it bends that way for sure.
I'm gonna ask you a very odd question next, because
Yeah,
I asked you
sure.
earlier. And I've listened to your podcast. I think there's a lot of, like, basic questions, and not basic in a negative way, but there's questions people wanna ask you around the hard stuff. I wanna ask you, what's the dare I say, what's the best part about being disabled? Is there a best part?
I love that question. Yeah, I love flipping the script. Gosh, let me think. There are actually a number of best things, a number of great things, I guess you'd say. Obviously, there are the very, clear, obvious ones, such as I get to park at the front of the grocery store and I get to go to the front of the line at the airport and I get to go to the front of the line at Disney World and all of those things. But deeper than that, I would say one of the greatest gifts of being disabled is being forced to slow down. I can't move as quickly as I used to. And I have to put on my makeup with one hand, and that's annoying. And I can, whatever it is, it takes me double the amount of time to eat food because my face is numb on one side. So food only goes on this side. And there's this beauty in being forced to do everything slowly. I walk slowly. I struggle to keep up, but maybe that's a gift because I don't really have to try to keep up anymore. So I think there is a beautiful reality that could feel like resignation, but for me, it feels like relief. I don't have to
And
try as hard. I think there's something really powerful in anyone's story, and it isn't resigning to something, I believe, but a relief in it of, I'm not gonna try to keep up. I'm just gonna be.
no, I think that's so beautiful. Catherine, as we begin to wrap up, what are the things that are exciting you the most right now? Whether it's personal, Hope Heals related, upcoming projects?
Oh, goodness. Well, there's a lot. We're getting ready for summer. With hallelujah, we're getting ready for summer. So that's very exciting to me that we're done with the school year. Oh my word. But more than that, I get to speak and share a whole lot of places with a whole lot of people. And it's just such a gift. I've been in 5 different states, 1 in a different country, in Canada, actually, in the last month, and that's, like, a
Mhm.
dream. There are hard things in that for sure, but it's glorious, and there's more of that happening in the future, and I never wanna take those opportunities for granted. They're such a blessing, such a gift to do that and to speak and to write. I'm writing a new book with my sister-in-law. Title will be forthcoming, but it will be a really special offering. I don't want to give too much away yet, but in the world of slashed expectations, how do we change that? How do we flip the script on what we thought our lives would look like and who we would become?
I love it.
So, yeah,
I
I
love it.
think those are the main things. Everything with our camp for families with disabilities is so exciting. We have 4 weeks of camp now. Over the last 8 years, I think we've had nearly 5,000 participants, and it's totally free for families experiencing disability, so that is a great joy of my life, and extremely exciting, and I could go on and on. There's so many things I'm excited about for the future. And I will have to tell you, Jordan, and your listeners, I think that's where we're really called to hang out is every morning as my kids are getting ready for their day, I will just talk about like, what are we excited about for the future? We got so much to look forward to here. And it probably feels kind of hard to be a kid at school right before finals at the end of the year, and I'm reframing that, like, how cool we're getting out for summer so soon. It's gonna be so fun. We got fun stuff happening here and here and here, and I just think that's a great way to live.
I agree with you. For people that wanna find out more about Hope Heals, your
Yeah.
book, Ment, where do they go? I mean, again, I know if you're local to Atlanta and you haven't yet gone to Mint Coffee in Buckhead, you're missing out. It is my favorite place to have meetings and to hang out, not just because of the incredible people that you employ, it also is so aesthetically pleasing, both visually and I always say it smells so good in there, and it's not the coffee that smells good, although that is very good. But where can people find out more about all of these incredible initiatives? How do they find out more and how they can support you all?
You are so kind, Jordan. Everything is linked through our website, hopeheals.com, and all socials are at Hope Heals. And there are multiple books, Hope Heals, Suffer Strong, and Treasures in the Dark, and those are available everywhere books are sold. And my podcast is called The Good Hard Story. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you for wanting to tell your listeners where to find me.
Of course. And as, you know, as we wrap up, I think for our listeners, it's so obvious why Catherine was such an exciting guest for us to have on today because so much of her story is why we built support now. We built support
Yeah.
now because we understand the importance of support, but also the importance of reducing overwhelm for the people that are in these difficult seasons and trying to figure it out, trying to reduce the amount of noise and tools. And so we just are so grateful to be able to have a little bit of time with you today, Catherine, but also to continue to serve this community because they can be so overlooked. And there it has been a very long time since tools have been modernized in a way that makes it easier both for families and for everyone that loves them. And so we continue to just be excited about the opportunities to serve families of with family members with a disability, medical complexities. It is truly like the heart of this company is to make sure these families feel seen. And Catherine, you and Jay and the family you've built is an excellent example of what happens when support goes right. And as
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't often happen that way in the disability community. More of Catherine and Jay out there in the world showing people what support looks like is, to me, just such a gift, and, thank you so much for joining me today. I truly I have always been blown away by you, but to be able to, like, hear this and to be able to talk to you directly is truly a joy. Thank you.
Jordan, you are so welcome, and I could not echo that more. I mean it. Because of the tremendous uplifting of me, my husband, and my baby from the first moments after the stroke all the way through to today has been deeply overwhelming, and I'm sure I will be unpacking it for every day I have on earth is how do I get to live this life? But I know so much of it is because of the community that has been with me in this, and I am forever grateful for you providing platforms that make this easier.
Thank you. Well, Catherine, I look forward to
Yeah,
future conversations. I appreciate it.
yeah, God bless you, Jordan, and your glorious work.
Thank you.